Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Rolex Datejust 36, reference 126234. This watch is available from Chronex.com for €12,240. You can purchase the watch from Chronex.com online, alternatively in person at their boutiques. All their watches are Chronex certified original by their in-house watchmakers, and all their watches are covered by the Chronex 24-month warranty. So firstly, I'll show you the accessories that come with the watch, and then I will talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the Rolex Datejust 36 comes with this owner's instruction manual. One also gets this leather wallet which contains the guarantee manual worldwide service booklet, and in the reverse it has the electronic warranty card, and as you can see the reference number of the piece is 126234, which denotes that this is the 36mm version of the Datejust. This is a brand new unworn 2021 piece, and as you can see the date of purchase was the 25th of September 2021. And lastly, one also gets this superlative certified Rolex SA Geneva tag. So this superlative certified tag with a hologram in the centre, as you can see, certifies that the movement used in the piece, which is the caliber 3235, is certified by COSC after casing and also certified by Rolex as a superlative chronometer. So as this is a brand new unworn 2021 piece, it also comes with the standard Rolex box and outer watch box, which you have seen before in my previous reviews. With regards to specification, this is the Rolex Datejust 36, reference 126234. We have a 36mm case diameter, a lug-to-lug measurement of 43.3mm, a thickness of 11.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The Oyster bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the Oyster lock clasp. As you can see, it is signed to a high standard with the Rolex coronet embossed. Beautiful finishing to the Oyster lock clasp, flawless mirror polishing to the centre section, which contrasts with the brushed satin finish outer section to the 9040 Oyster steel. Absolutely flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, and it's just a very well executed Oyster lock clasp, which is very aesthetically pleasing. It also complements the mirror polished centre links in the Oyster bracelet and the contrasting brushed satin finish outer links to the Oyster steel. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal which has clear anti-reflective coating on the underside, and the clear AR coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver white gold applied indices and the silver white gold baton hands. Absolutely beautiful to look at the dial. It's one of my favourite aspects, as you can see. So this is a new dial for the Datejust 36, which Rolex has introduced this year in 2021, and it has a 3D effect. It's just very eye-catching the way the blue dial catches the light. It's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. I love the symmetry of the applied indices, and I also like the applied white gold coronet at 12 o'clock for the 12 o'clock index on the dial. Cyclops magnifier, which also has clear AR coating on the underside, and it has 2.5 times magnification. So excellent performance in magnifying the date complication by 2.5 times. The white date with black Arabic numerals is clearly legible, as you can see. Engraved rehort is done to a perfect standard, as one would expect, and I really like the way the rehort catches the light and the engraved Rolex all the way around with the coronet engraved multiple times. Just absolutely beautiful to look at, the engraved rehort underneath the flat sapphire crystal. The fluted bezel is solid white 18 karat gold, and it's just absolutely gorgeous the way the white gold bezel catches the light. As you can see, the teeth to the flutes is just really sharp and really eye-catching. I just love the way it catches the light. It's beautiful. Nice lip to the edge of the sapphire crystal, which projects above the top of the fluted bezel, and that also is very eye-catching. I love the way the top edge of the crystal catches the light, as you can see. It's just a very aesthetically pleasing piece. The crown is solid 9040 Oyster steel, coin edge finished and embossed with the Rolex coronet, and it has a line underneath the coronet which denotes that this is a twin lock crown, providing an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters. So let's test the crown action. Absolutely sublime. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I regard Rolex crown action to be the best in the world. No one does it better than the Rolex twin lock and trip lock crowns respectively. So the trip lock crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters of water resistance. The twin lock crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly adequate for a daily wear piece such as the Datejust. The caliber 3235 is a chronology movement, and it has a characteristic pop which pushes the winding stem out of the movement. So in the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 70-hour power reserve. Absolute pleasure to manually wind it, silky smooth. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. As you can see, looking at the date window, the quick set complication works as one would expect. Nice positive click to each day of the month clicking over. Very satisfying to use. And the caliber 3235 has one of the most satisfying quick set complications I've experienced. I love the way each day flicks over with a nice positive click. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and as you can see, the caliber 3235 has hacking. I've now stopped the second hand dead, so one can set the time precisely to the second. Absolutely silky smooth. Nice firm resistance to the caliber 3235. The movement is used in numerous other Rolex pieces, including the Submariner date, and I really like the feeling of the caliber 3235. However, there is a curiosity with it. Usually when one rotates the crown clockwise, it has the effect of moving the hands clockwise. And when one rotates the crown anti-clockwise, it usually has the effect of rotating the hands anti-clockwise. With the caliber 3235, it's a curiosity of the movement that rotating the crown rotates the hands in the opposite direction to the way one would expect. So for example, when I rotate the crown clockwise, it has the effect of rotating the hands anti-clockwise. When I rotate the crown anti-clockwise, it has the effect of rotating the crown clockwise, the hands clockwise. So the opposite way to the way one would expect, and that does take some getting used to. But however, I like the firm resistance of the gearing in the caliber 3235. It's just a very well executed movement. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is absolutely incredible crown execution, the very best in the world. And it's got a very quick pickup to the thread. It screws down very quickly. The interface between the internal thread of the solid oyster steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube are perfection personified. Silky smooth. The thread is just sublime. It's really silky, and I absolutely love the way it locks down with a nice positive feeling. So the twin lock crown provides 100 meters of hermetic seal, as does the screw down oyster lock caseback, as you can see, which is completely sterile as per many Rolex pieces. Longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the oyster steel stainless steel screw down caseback, and we've also got mirror polishing, which is flawless to the circumference, and coin edge finishing to the circumference, which is just sublime. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. Very comfortable against the wrist because it's perfectly sterile and flat, so it's very comfortable to wear the piece for 8 to 12 hours per day. Needless to say, the solid end links are a perfect fit to the case, no play in them whatsoever, and they are finished to perfection, as is the underside of the case, which is brushed satin finished throughout. Now, with regards to the clasp, it is finished to a flawless standard, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, and as you can see, it's signed with Rolex and the coronet. The steel inox is absolutely beautiful to look at. Really is an absolutely incredible clasp. Now, there's no glide lock mechanism, but we do have a 5mm EasyLink extension, as you can see, which I have deployed, and this allows for some on-the-fly adjustment. One can extend the oyster bracelet by 5mm by deploying the EasyLink. The EasyLink works very well. It's got a nice positive click into the body of the clasp and a nice positive click when deploying it, so I like the way it snaps in and out of the body of the clasp with a reassuring click. Also, the oyster lock clasp has a good positive click when closing it, so it feels very nice to use, and it's absolutely gorgeous to look at with the embossed coronet on the mirror polished centre section. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, the bracelet hasn't been sized. It has the full 12 links that a brand new Datejust should have, but however, even with the 12 links in the bracelet and the EasyLink extension deployed to give it an extra 5mm, I can only just get it across my wrist, so I have to remove my glove. So it's too tight for me to close, as you can see. I can just snap it shut, but it's too tight, it's uncomfortable to wear. So I'm just going to hold it around the wrist to give you a wrist shot, as you can see. Now, with regards to the proportions, the 36mm version of the Datejust is clearly best suited to a collector with a 6 to 7 inch wrist. I've previously reviewed the Datejust 41, and that clearly is a better suited piece if you are a collector with a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist. So that's something to bear in mind. If you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, I highly recommend the Datejust 36. If you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, I highly recommend the Datejust 41. And if you haven't seen my Datejust 41 review, please feel free to check it out. So as you can see, it has a relatively short lug-to-lug measurement of only 43.3mm. I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot, so 43.3 is a really short lug-to-lug measurement. But the positive is that if you have a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you'll find the 43.3mm lug-to-lug measurement to fit your wrist very well. Very snug fit to the wrist. The Oyster case wraps around the wrist very close, as you can see, minimal gap underneath the ends of the lugs. They've got the proportions correct with regards to the 20mm lug width. It perfectly balances the 36mm head of the piece. Absolutely gorgeous the way the white gold fluted bezel catches the light, and also the way the lip of the flat sapphire crystal catches the light, as you can see. Just absolutely gorgeous. My favourite aspect really is the dial. The finishing to the dial is just incredible. It's just mesmerising to look at the way the dial catches the light. It's got a 3D effect. It looks rather like a honeycomb dial, or alternatively it looks like a carbon fibre pattern to it. It's just incredible the way the different facets of the blue change colour. It catches the light. And although it's flat, it does look like it's 3D. So it's just one of the most interesting Rolex dials ever made. And I absolutely love it. I think it's just a gorgeous blue dial, the way it changes colour in the light and has that 3D effect. The symmetry of the applied indices is outstanding, so good legibility, easy to read with the baton hands contrasting with the blue dial. And also I like the silver white gold coronet applied at 12 o'clock for the 12 o'clock index. This is just perfection personified. This is the perfect Datejust dial layout. I like everything about it. And really, a Datejust has to have a fluted bezel rather than a smooth bezel. Now, with regards to the Oyster bracelet with the mirror polished centre links, this is divisive. Some purist Rolex collectors would argue that a Datejust has to have a Jubilee bracelet with the fluted bezel, and that is the iconic Datejust look. But personally, I like the look of the mirror polished centre links because they complement the mirror polished flanks and mirror polished tops of the lugs. Now, it does also look very nice on the Jubilee bracelet, but I personally think that with this dial, the Oyster bracelet with the mirror polished centre links does complement the fluted bezel and the dial. So it would look good on a Jubilee bracelet and also on this Oyster bracelet. Very comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time because it is only 127 grams. And that is a surprise because usually with 36mm pieces on a solid Oyster bracelet, I would expect them to weigh in excess of 130 grams. So at 126 grams, it feels very light, it's very well balanced. The comfort level is good, the feel good factor is good, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous piece to look at with the fluted bezel, as you can see. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So just bear with me, and I'm going to put my glove back on and then I'll continue. So like with many Rolex pieces, this uses Chromolite, which is the very best of Swiss Lume. So I've got very high expectations of the lume performance on this Datejust 36. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This really is the very best of Swiss Lume, as you can see. Very similar tone to BGW9 Super Lume Nova. It's a characteristic of Chromolite that it has a bright blue tone. The baton hands are glowing incredibly brightly, as are the applied indices. Perfect symmetry to the applied indices, and one can clearly orientate the dial. One can tell where 12 o'clock is due to the absence of the 12 o'clock index on the dial due to the white gold applied coronet. The date complication is clearly magnified by 2.5 times, as you can see, and the baton hand is loomed to such an extent it's even illuminating the date complication. As you can see, the minute hand over the white date wheel is even making it glow. So it's glowing incredibly brightly, and it will continue to glow for a good length of time. Really, nothing comes close to Rolex Chromolite. It is some of the best lume in the world, and I regard it as equal in quality to BGW9 Super Lume Nova, which is the best quality Swiss Super Lume Nova. So as you can see, clearly legible. One can easily differentiate between the hour hand and also the longer minute hand. The baton hands contrast very well, and also they look very aesthetically pleasing because they match the applied indices with a rectangular shape. So 10 out of 10 performance from the Chromalight. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this uses the caliber 3235, which is a chronology movement. It has 31 jewels, and it's been used in several other Rolex pieces, including the Submariner date. So it's a reliable, well-proven chronology movement. It has an impressive 70-hour power reserve, which is outstanding, hand winding and hacking, which is useful complications. And it features paramagnetic parachrome blue hairspring, which means it's a highly anti-magnetic movement. And it also features Paraflex shock absorbers, so it's also an incredibly shock-resistant movement. It's very efficient due to the chronology escapement, and it has a stated accuracy of -2 to +2 seconds per day after casing. So after casing, the movement is certified by COSC, and it's also certified by Rolex as a superlative chronometer. Now I'm pleased to report that this one is running consistently at +1 second per day, which is well within the stated -2 to +2 seconds per day after casing. And really, it's outstanding. There are no negatives whatsoever to the caliber 3235. It is one of the greatest Rolex calibers ever made. And I absolutely love it. It's very similar in terms of the architecture to the caliber 3230 used in my Submariner, and I think the 3235 really is an example of the very best of Rolex movement making. It's one of their most technically excellent calibers due to the chronology movement, which is incredibly efficient. So I really like it, and it's the correct choice. The caliber 3235 is the perfect choice for the Datejust because it gives it 70 hours of power reserve, and therefore it makes it a very versatile daily wear piece. And also it makes it versatile if you wear this piece in rotation as part of a collection. Because it has 70 hours, you can effectively take the piece off for nearly 3 days in a row, and you don't need to manually wind it to top up the power reserve or put it on an automatic watch winder. It will continue to run for nearly 3 days. So it's a very good movement, and it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. It's reason alone to purchase the piece, the caliber 3235. So are there any negatives to the piece? Well, there is only one thing I would change about it. I would like to see Rolex introduce the glide lock mechanism to the Datejust because that would allow for more on-the-fly adjustment than the 5mm Easy-Link extension. The Oyster Lock clasp is very effective, it's very aesthetically pleasing, and it does work well with the Easy-Link extension, but it could be further enhanced with the use of a glide lock. Now, the only other thing to consider, and I'm not going to say it's a negative because I've previously reviewed the Datejust 41, and I would say to you, just consider the proportions. This is a small piece. The lug-to-lug measurement is small at 43.3, and also it's a 36mm head of the piece. If you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, this is the perfect fit for your wrist size. But however, if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, I would rule the Datejust 36 out as being too small. The Datejust 41 will fit you better because the proportions of the 41 are better suited to a 7 to 8 inch wrist. So that's something just to bear in mind. It's not a negative. But bear in mind that the Datejust is available in a 36 and also a 41mm version. So really fit the watch to your wrist size. So really there are no other negatives to the piece. Now lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So this is €12,240 from Chronex, which is significantly above retail. But however, these are a very sought after piece because it's a new dial design from Rolex for 2021, and the 36mm is a very popular size. The 126234 is one of the most popular Datejust references with this dial. So yes, it is worth paying over retail to get the piece immediately without having to go on a waiting list and having to wait for the piece. So I think it is justified due to the fact it's a difficult piece to get from Rolex authorised dealers, and also it's one of the most sought after pieces. It's going to become a very strong investment piece. So yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value, even though €12,240 is significantly above retail. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Rolex Datejust 36, reference 126234. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.